Hello and welcome to the Voices Project. I'm Liz Barker and I'm joined by Becky Webb, and together on this podcast we talk to people about their experiences of the arts during the COVID-19 coronavirus crisis of 2020. We ask people how they got into the arts, what the arts means to them, what it's been like during lockdown and what they think the future holds. Today we are joined by Grace and Rachael, who are the amazing team that is Ugly Bucket Theatre. Ugly Bucket fuse clown, techno and verbatim to bring hilarious and hard-hitting pieces of work to the stage. Their past productions include Bost Uni Pluse, a show about post-university depression, Two Clowns One Cup, which explores women's sexuality, and their most recent piece of work is Good Grief, a show about grief. We talk about their journey over the past 3 years as a company, how their devising and creative process works, how that's changed during lockdown, and what kind of work it is they would like to make now. Like everything in this pandemic, the podcast is recorded over remote video conferencing software. During this episode recording, Becky was having a lot of difficulty with the sound on her laptop, but I think I've been able to remedy most of that through the edit. The Voices Project is an open platform for anyone who is involved in any way with the arts to share their thoughts, feelings and experiences of art in the current crisis, brought to you by March for the Arts. If you would like to participate and share your voice, you can find out how to do that by visiting our website, www.marchforthearts.com. Hello and welcome Ugly Bucket Theatre. We've got Grace and Rachael with us today, with me and Becky. Thank you so much for joining us. How are you guys doing?
Very good. Hello.
Very well, thank you. In this very echoey room.
Yes, we are all, as the pandemic goes on, obviously still at a very, very great distance, talking over the internet. So we have a variety of audio quality today. I know, Becky, just before we started recording, you were having some microphone issues that we managed to resolve just at the last minute.
With the world's worst headphones that I have in at the moment, so...
It's a nice variety of, I'm finding as we record more and more of these podcasts, we get a real sort of variety of Zoom calls and of sort of like locations people find themselves in to do recordings as well. It's quite fun. But yeah, I wanted to just, before we sort of get into some of the more deeper, not that this podcast gets very deep, but I was just wondering, just for everyone who's listening, people who haven't heard of Ugly Bucket, I know unfortunately there are people out there who've never engage with your work, but that group of people gets smaller as the days goes on. Can you guys just give us a bit of a rundown of yourselves and of the company and sort of how we got to Ugly Bucket today? What's that journey been like?
So the work that we do with Ugly Bucket, the type of work that has kind of like formed over the past nearly 3 years, it's a kind of real mashup of clowning, techno music, and verbatim. And so what we kind of do is we kind of combine in a really unconventional way this really garish, loud, colourful, like bonkersness with topics that we think are really poignant or difficult or people find it hard to talk about, and we use comedy and we use clowning and we use being ridiculous as a way to approach these topics, and it's very much head on. And we find that like when we approach them this way, it kind of just de-arms it and it opens them up for discussion. So it's all about sparking discussion and sparking thoughts in a way that you might never have thought you would have done before. So the first show we made was when we left university, and we made a show on postgraduate depression, and that's because that's how we were feeling, and it just seemed like it was like a therapy of every week with some friends just making a stupid show about postgraduate depression, and then that kind of started a snowball and the ball just kept rolling.
Yeah, then we did Two Clowns One Cup, and that was kind of like almost small scale in terms of cast, because it was just Grace and Crystal, and then that's definitely more where I came on board with like building, and kind of we also started to push the comedy even further. So that is like an entirely stupid, ridiculous, we like to think funny. It is funny, that's just fact, actually, it's fact. And yeah, it's a really funny, and it just explores sex head on. Why don't we talk about it? How have we been taught it in the past? And let's re-educate ourselves as females in the world of sex, and trying to like navigate what it means to enjoy it, all that sort of stuff. And then all these shows, by the way, have been touring as we've kind of learned that as we've gone along a bit, haven't we? Kind of.
The touring has definitely been a learn as you go along experience.
Turn up,
doing funded stuff. Or very Ugly Bucket has very much been, I feel, from the beginning, learning as you go along. Completely just like.
It's like we're all a team and we tackle everything, because we know that the end goal is we want an audience to have that discussion. That's it. So how we do it is different.
And most of the stuff we've learned by doing it wrong and then going, oh, that was really wrong. So yeah, we've made like loads of mistakes that I think have made us like way better as a company now. And then we in April last year, someone quite important to us passed away from cancer, but before he passed away, he asked us if we would do a short Ugly Bucket piece on death to be shown at his memorial service. And that was like a 10-minute idea that grew into this kind of beast that is Good Grief now, which has been our latest, well, not our latest actually, considering what we've done in lockdown. We've done stuff in lockdown, but before lockdown, Good Grief was kind of like our
the big show.
The most ambitious. I feel like Good Grief is Ugly Bucket. Self-discovery. I think we know ourselves best in Good Grief, and I think it was our biggest challenge, because I think like we like to combine comedy with the tricky stuff, and
this is like the trickiest of things.
There's nothing trickier than trying
to process death and grief in this funny way, and we talk about it quite a lot in rehearsal. Is like we're never laughing at it, and it's always, that's what we're trying to balance. And as soon as you say it's a comedy thing and it's about death, everyone goes, well, it's not funny, it's just not funny. But actually there's so much nuance in grief and how we deal with it and understanding it. And loads of the show actually isn't funny. Loads of it is
there's
just
there's so much sad stuff in it, because like it is sad, but I think a lot of the time people think you're laughing at death, and we're like, we never laugh at anything. I don't think we ever laugh at anything. I think we always find comedy in things, but we don't laugh at stuff, and that's why I think we've really developed a way, because we work with verbatim and we work with real stories. I think we found a way of we're so careful and try to be respectful and as sensitive as possible with the stories we get, and we try and show it in the way we think we want people for it to be shown and do what it deserves. But we never laugh at anything, but we laugh about everything. We don't laugh at stuff.
I suppose it's that quite clown thing of finding the ridiculousness in a situation to find the humanity, like you say, tackling subjects and stuff. So who, if we were to sort of say Ugly Bucket, who are they? Who does it consist of? Is it just the two of you, or is there others among you? Others in the bucket, as it were?
We run Ugly Bucket together, and then we had a core of 3 in Bost Uni Pluse, and then we had like a 2 for 2 crowns 1 cup, which was me and Crystal, but Crystal's just had a baby literally in the past few days. Brand new baby. And then for Good Grief we auditioned. We knew we wanted Good Grief to be a bigger cast, so we auditioned. So we had our original Bost Uni Pluse 3. Held an audition. We were aiming to cast one other person. We were going to do a 4 people show.
We were, yeah.
And then after the audition, there was no way that we could choose between these two people that we loved so much that we just went both. Yeah, we went both. So then we made Good Grief, a cast of 5, and it was mad because I could never imagine it as anything else. And I think we've now hit a point with it where we have a really lovely team, a really great core company performers. So I think at the moment we seem to be like a group of 5. We have Duncan does all the music for us, who's my brother. He does all our music. So I think we've got a good team of like 8 people.
Yeah, and the performers also they're so heavily involved in the devising. Like, we auditioned before we had a show. We knew the kind of concept, we knew the idea, we knew where things were going with it. So we had a bit of a skeleton almost, but even then we didn't really know where it ended. Yeah. And then we bring people on board because it's also our experience. So we're telling the people whose voices we're using in the shows, and then we're also using ourselves. So much of it is, we talk about being a vessel, and then also using that as our own experiences. So loads of it was channeling what we feel. So I'm like, say Angelina's in a scene, for example, who's one of the performers. I'll go, okay, Angelina, listen to what this person is saying. Can you relate? Do you just want to act as the vessel, or, you know, that sort of thing. So it's really nice. Everyone builds together. So the show is all of us.
Yeah.
It's quite nice.
Yeah, it's nice. So we've got there's 8 of us. We have 5 performers, and then we've got a team of 3. And then, and that's for now, but I'm knowing me in the future, I want to do a 30 people.
Massive.
I do have a picture in my head of one day doing an Ugly Bucket show that has a cast of literally 100. So if anyone who wants to be in will definitely be in at some point, because I can just see it growing. But yeah.
What's been really fantastic for me, because I've known you guys for quite some time now. I mean, I've known Rachel and I were in college together many moons ago, and then Grace and I, obviously we went to university together, and you guys were forming just out of university, and I graduated before you guys did. But I've sort of been able to really see your growth as a company, and as practitioners, and as performers and directors and all this sort of stuff. And what always stumps me is the amount of content and amazing quality content the two of you managed to sort of spearhead together. And I remember working up at the Edinburgh Fringe last year, which was, you guys were at the Edinburgh Fringe, you were doing runs with 2 of your shows, and the amount of sort of work it takes to run one Edinburgh Fringe show is fantastic. And you guys brought 2 shows. You brought both your shows, which I believe was Bost Uni Pluse and 2 Clowns 1 Cup, and you were running both of those shows during the Fringe last year. And I just remember feeling so sort of in awe of your sort of ability to run such a successful company as you two. And obviously that trajectory has been building, and I know that you secured some support with the Holbeck to develop Good Grief, I think, and seeing that was really incredible, and this trajectory was going, and then obviously we hit lockdown, and I wonder if you could just tell us a little bit about how that's been to be on this sort of you were winning awards, you were doing sellout Fringe runs, you were doing sort of getting support from the Holbeck and doing R&D processes and getting featured on the BBC, and you're on this amazing trajectory, and everything in the country stops in terms of live performance. What was that like?
So without wanting to give too much away, because there's stuff that might happen in the future, but 2020 was going to be the year for Good Grief, and we had a massive year, and it did, and like you're saying with that trajectory, it did feel because we've been so coasting the kind of line of getting from that fringy venue to, we were about to hit that mid-tier, really. I felt like Good Grief was a show, and we were about to step it up. We're about to step up to what we felt was the next level. And then I don't know. I think when it all happened, it was really devastating. But also there was a part of me that was because we weren't being left behind, because it was everybody was in the same boat, like everything stopped. I think that made it in a way easier because it wasn't like everyone was racing ahead and we were being left behind. It was like, it felt like it was a real unity stopped, where everyone was just like, well, it's all, everyone's lost everything. So,
and it was strange because it was like everything, so we would go, and then it was stopped. Then you're dealing with like the things that are bigger than yourself and bigger than just your house. You're like, oh my God, all this is going on in the world, this is so awful. Then when you have those moments when you're like, 2 weeks in, and you go, I've not done anything for 2 weeks, this is so strange. That's like a whole other process. And then lockdown was kind of like really settling in, and because we both lived together, and we both were a bit like wobbly on days, then we were fine on days, and it was very like taking turns of like, how are you feeling? I'm great, I'm rubbish, I'm great, I'm rubbish. And we always make a joke of like, we both can't be at the same time or else everything's gonna fall apart. That's like a joke.
If one of us is stressed, we'll be fine. If both of us are stressed, that's when
game over.
Normally we're like this, but if we're both down, then it's just completely game over.
And there was just a really nice moment when we kind of saw the Homemakers project, which is run by Home Manchester, and we saw that they were releasing like a commission, and we were like, ooh. And it was definitely one of those where it was like both of us were one of these, and I'm going, is this good? No, I hate the idea. Then Grace was like, no, I love the idea. And then she's like, I don't want to do anything creative. I'm not creative. And I'm like, maybe we are. No, I'm not. And then all of a sudden,
there was a lot of like, I remember really at the start of lockdown, and then it felt like there was a real surge of creativity from people, and then people doing their, I've done this, I found the time to do this project, and I found the time to do that.
Learn a new skill.
Yeah, I've got this new idea, and I found that really stressful because I just wasn't, I didn't care. I didn't care about anything. I didn't care about doing a project. I did not care about doing it. And like, there was times when like me and Rachel might talk about an idea or make, because then it was like, oh, well, there's this funding available. So, and I was really going, but I'm very much the type of person where I will never force an idea, because if I don't care about it, I won't do it. So we never tried to force anything, which is why I think if you look at it, the work has always happened really organically. Because I think with a lot of companies, because we made 3 shows in less than 2 years, and like I feel like if I was in the right mind, I wouldn't have done it. But like, because it was organic, and at that point in time, we had to do it because it needed to happen, and it needed to happen then. That's when it happened. So we'd never do anything if we didn't feel like it had to happen. And then I think with ABC, so we knew that there was this funding available, and then I think somehow one of us, or someone threw in an idea, and all of a sudden it was an idea that I liked. And the switch in me from going, I don't want to do anything ever, to like within 10 seconds, because I heard it and I liked the idea, and all of a sudden it was like,
and then it's so, I remember this so clearly, it's so bizarre. So Grace lives with her boyfriend, and he literally got up, left the room, and probably went to the toilet. By the time he came back, we had the idea, because it literally went, oh, and it could be like this, oh, and it could be like this, and then we both do that, and then we go, right, let's start the application. Then off we go,
and we did the application within like half an hour, and was like, we like that idea, that's great, and sent it off, and that's when we made ABC, which I loved.
It was so fun. It was like a really nice, because a big thing that I think I was focused on is making work that only exists in that time. It was quite interesting. It's being like, lockdown happens, this is how we feel, here's how we feel creatively, have that, we can move on now with our lives and do whatever we want to do, because we think.
For anyone who's not seen it, can you tell us a little bit more about ABC and what it is?
ABC is a film, so we made a short film, and we put out a call out for people to send us their audio, answering the question, how have you kept busy in lockdown? And they could send us anything.
And it was our first ever open call out of being like, everyone.
Yeah.
Come and send us
We were like,
stuff.
anyone who wants to send us stuff can send us stuff. And we got loads of great audio through people talking about what they've done in lockdown to stay busy, or even people saying what they've not done.
So funny. Some of the stuff that they send us so funny.
Yeah.
They don't even know. This girl talking about baking, too much. It was so funny. So then we take that audio and then put it against these ridiculous visuals. So basically the idea is like the clowns are keeping themselves busy because they're not on stage.
The video feels almost like a step-by-step guide. It feels 90s children's show, step-by-step guide to being productive in lockdown. This is how you make the most of your lockdown. And honestly, I feel like that's all I want to say about it, because go and watch it. And I know that we made it, but like it's so, when I say like the twists and turns, and like I feel like what you start to watch, when you watch it at the beginning and when you get to the end, you have no idea how you even got to where it finishes.
Yeah.
And I feel like, yeah,
that is exactly it.
Yeah.
And is that available on the home website? Is that Manchester home website?
Yeah, if you go to Manchester Homemakers or go to our socials and stuff, you can find it really easily. And it's like 9 minutes. It's like 10 minutes of your time.
Yeah.
enjoy
ABC, anything
it.
but COVID, because we don't.
We should be able to get a link to that, and we'll probably also find a link to that we can.
Yeah, we'll drop a link in the description of the podcast so that anyone can click through to that.
What I want to ask, if it's all right, is just, it's quite interesting the way you were talking about lockdown, and Grace in particular feeling like you don't want to do anything, because I, as a freelance performer and clown as well, and that idea of, this is just, I don't want to be creative for the sake of being creative, and I don't just want to do stuff. I was just wondering if there's an element that you guys felt of grief, that lockdown was sort of dealing with grief in a way of having opportunities and a way of life that we had before that literally just stopped.
I think so. I think funnily it also really relates to when we made Bost Uni Pluse, because I think a lot of the work that we made, like, it was interesting making a show that was about grief in a real literal sense. But even when we made Bost Uni Pluse, that was about mourning your university, like that university career gone, and like I think in life we're constantly mourning and constantly
things move on,
end,
and then you're like,
and then
we don't have time to process.
Yeah.
The world is so fast, and then it stopped, and everyone was like, whoop.
But even when it stopped, it felt like people were like trying to force it to move on, and I was like, can we just stop?
That's kind of what
just ABC.
So much talk of ABC when we were making it and discussing it was, I just wish everyone would shut up. This is ourselves included. We were like, I wish I would shut up, be talking about the same bloody thing. Do you know, so annoying, but then also so prevalent, and it was what was going on.
Yeah.
So it's just like, but I was just like, shut up.
Yeah. But I think it totally relates to grief, and that feeling of like, everything, it feels like everything should stop. Why? I don't know. It's like why does it keep going? Why do we keep going? And why do we're so trying to force like this kind of moving forward? And people are so afraid of just like sitting, as cringe as it says, like in the moment, and like I think allowing yourself feelings and allowing yourself emotion is like literally so important.
Yeah, we need to learn it more.
Yeah,
I don't think we're all great at it.
And I think there was a lesson we massively learned when we were making our shows, because we tackle topics that are like difficult. I think something that we learned the hard way by doing it wrong and then going, oh, okay, this is how we do it, is that in our shows we don't have to give people the answers. And I think people are constantly looking for the answers. And I think that when everyone went into lockdown, I think that kind of pushing forward is again that feeling of like answers. I need answers,
Yeah.
and I need to go forward. Whereas like we found that in our shows, just presenting it is enough. That's enough. So like, especially like with Bost Uni, like we can't cure grief and we can't cure postgraduate depression, but we can present to you all these people that feel the same way, and in a way that's kind of enough for people. So I think we learned that the hard way by creating like an awful ending to Bost Uni Pluse a while ago, which was really makes me sick to think about it. But yeah, so now we know.
We fixed depression for a bit and then we went, oh, we'll not let everyone know.
It was horrible. It just was really patronising, and it's hard because it's like the reason we changed the ending is because we got loads of feedback from people saying, I wish there was like hard advice. I wish there was hard advice, or I wish there was like just black and white. What's my fix? So then we were like we got this feedback and we were like, we have to do this, and we did it, and it didn't work, and then we went back to how it was, and everyone was like much better. So I think sometimes you might get feedback, and then it might not be right, but you just have to try it. But like it's sometimes stuff just won't work, even if everyone's telling you this is what would work. We've tried it.
I can for a moment, if you'll all forgive me, get incredibly pretentious and talk about how Aristotle once said that to create this live entertainment stuff that we do, whether it's theatre, whether it's music, whether it's clown, whether it's whatever you want to bracket it as, this people come together and they share stories, and our job is to hold a mirror to nature. It's not to sort of like give a comment on that, but it's to present it back and to go, look at what happens, look at yourselves, look at the people around you. Let's present it in this way that we can all sit together and look at it instead of experiencing it in our lives. And I think that's a lot of what I see in your work anyway, and it's so interesting to hear you talk about it that way.
I think some of the nicest feedback we've ever got is when I think a review once said like that, what makes our work the way it is that we're not saying anything, but we're just presenting things in a funny way. It's real life. We're just going, we're not saying anything about it, but we're going to present it like this, and doesn't that say everything about it? So it's like, I remember, Liz, I actually remember, I think about Bost Uni Pluse, I think you wrote something somewhere where you, in the feedback form, I remember this really clearly, you wrote that it was totally unpretentious, and I remember that being really valuable.
We talk about that loads.
I was just like, I'm so glad people don't think the work is pretentious, because like it's making work on like mental health or grief and these hard hitting topics. It's very easy to fall into that kind of pretentious, patronising world. So it was really wonderful that it didn't feel like that. I'm being really happy about that.
I'm glad. I don't remember writing that, but I'm sure I definitely did, because I would definitely say that about your work. And I'm really glad my anonymous feedback form was given away, probably by my handwriting.
Yeah. Also, while we're here, another like thing I remember is when we did Bost Uni Pluse for the first time, and it was the first thing we ever put on anywhere, and we charged for students it was free, for everyone else it was £1, and Liz Barker put a tenner in. And was like, and Liz Barker was like, I know it's hard starting out, and gave us a tenner, and I've really held on to that and remembered it.
We still have it.
Thank you, Liz.
I really remember that, because I remember, and Becky and I have spoken about this a little bit as we've been talking about March for the Arts stuff, and sort of as we formed as well to sort of think about how we can champion freelancers and emerging artists and new companies and all the people who are really suffering right now, is that actually oftentimes we don't value our work in the way that we would like to value our work, because there's so many social constructs around that, but also it's so hard often to break into that. And I really remember coming to that show that day and seeing sort of, I knew how much work you'd all put into that, and I remember thinking, if I'd have been, when I was in this position a year before or 2 years before, something like that would have been such a real sort of kickstarter for me. And I thought that was a thing for me, and it's always been my ideology to give back as much as I possibly can. So that was for me, it was a no-brainer to kind of be like, no, you've put so much work in. And actually that show, in the quality it was in at that point, if I'd have been sitting in not a university drama studio, but one of our other theatres in the city, I would have been paying £10 to come and see that show, even in that state. And for me, that was a real statement in the value that I saw in you guys, and that actually, as we're going forward through this pandemic, it's the sort of things we keep reevaluating, which is what is our value, what in society as well, as much as anything else. I mean, obviously we're getting some rescue money from the government, we're getting various bits and pieces, but often it feels, to me anyway, a little bit like it's sort of a pittance. It's sort of a bit like, oh well, we'll throw a bit of money at the clowns and then they'll all go away and be happy again. And I know I'm sort of like digressing slightly, but I wonder sort of, there's a wider conversation I think that's slowly building out of lockdown, which is that we are very valuable to society, in that what we do brings a lot of money to the economy, but what we do also brings a lot of joy or happiness or even just resolution to people when they come and see what we do, and that's something I think you as a company very much do as well.
Valuing ourselves and valuing our work continues to be our biggest challenge.
It's such a conflict, like an inner conflict, to ask for money is so strange. When
it's a real battle. We were talking about this recently. What was all of that idea of, it's a real cultural thing. I think that we all have as creatives and artists, of what is our value and what is our worth, kind of thing. I remember, so it was a businesswoman that had once said that everyone knows the cost of everything and the value of nothing, which I was just like,
yeah.
But I think the way we do that, and the competitive nature of the industry, can run the risk of doing that.
Yeah, it's insane, because also the sad, I feel like the sad truth is that, like, we've spent 3 years working for like no money. Like Ugly Bucket, we've had funding like once. We had funding once for Bost Uni Pluse. Every other show that we've made, and we got a bit of money from the whole, but we've had amazing support, but like money, like the money that it takes, we've never had.
It's mainly support. When we say support, it's all in kind stuff, which is amazing stuff anyway.
But it's like, I think the hard reality of our journey is that if we did it being paid what we should be paid, we wouldn't be here.
None of it would
I don't know
happen.
how you would set up a company. I don't know how you couldn't. It's impossible. It's literally impossible. So the only reason we're at where we are, which is in a really good place to be, is because it's not been equity at all. Like, no. And also when we've made work from like barely any budget, and the work never suffers. The work I think we've made has always been the same work that we would have made when we suffer. and like the people who need to eat food, they have always been the ones that and have suffered, and it's just really nuts, and we hate it, but like horrible, we do it all the time. We continue to do it. We're doing it this weekend. It's just like,
it's like a horrible conversation.
Yeah.
It's like a horrible conversation to have. I remember when we were making Good Grief, and when we did the audition for Good Grief, we really had to say to everyone in the room, please be aware right now that this could be paid and it might not be. And that's, like, it's so horrible, but we were like, we've put in the application, we're rooting for it just as much as you are. Like, if you want to be involved, be aware that that's the case. And that's what's also amazing about the team, is that we're all on that same thing. We shouldn't have to be, but we're all in that same mindset of, if it's not paid, we do it for the love of it.
Yeah, but we are also getting to a point, I think now as a company, if we don't get the funding, we won't do it. Like we don't. With the last thing we did that with was with Good Grief. We didn't get the funding, and we did it anyway, with our own money, and like the £1,500 that we had from Slumglow, and that's what we made it from, and that was the last time we'd do it.
Yeah.
But because I think we've got to that point, but to get there, I don't know how you do it without sacrificing that thing that is, and it shouldn't be like that, but don't know what the answer is, other than give us more money. Yeah, I don't know.
Yeah, and you mentioned this upcoming weekend, Rachel. Obviously, this podcast is not going to go out for a couple of weeks, so everyone who listens to it will be after the fact. But can you tell us a little bit about your next sort of lockdown project? I've seen some photographs on your social media. I think today or yesterday you're in a rehearsal room. You're doing some rehearsals. What is this? Tell me more.
We were in an actual rehearsal room for the first time in 2020, which was
stunning.
really good.
So this is the Holly Blobs, and basically it's the Without Walls Fund have commission. It's not commission.
Yeah,
so it's Culture Liverpool. It's Culture Liverpool's Without Walls Fund.
Yeah. So they've given us a bit of money to make something for the streets. So we've basically created this alien family who come to visit Liverpool as tourists, and they are like epitome of tourists. They're going to explore the docks, and it's going to be ridiculous. It's going to be so ridiculous. The costumes are quite literally out of this world.
Oh, we've worked with Sasha Gilmore for the first time as a designer, who I know has done lots of stuff in Liverpool, went to Liverpool. I think she's done loads with VIP puppets. She is incredible. Like,
so it was just amazing. Like, such a smooth process of just being like, we've got this idea, these aliens, they're tourists, we want them to kind of feel a bit weird, and then she goes boom.
Yeah.
And all these costumes are so fun, and the performances that we've seen so far, we've literally not even done that many rehearsals yet, and it's in a couple of days. But it's so funny. And it's so funny to remember how absolutely like ridiculously funny every performer is involved in Ugly Bucket. And there was just a moment I was like, this is why it's so worth it, because it's been a pure joy thing. A joy. Everything else that we've done so far has had real meaning, has had real, like, what is this about? Like, you know, like, but the Holly Blobs has been only for our own joy. And that's what's been, and it's been the most stress-free thing we've ever done, which we really like. Feels like a lack of, because there's no verbatim involved and all that, there's such a lack of responsibility with it in terms of, there's no pressure. It's just fun. It is fun, and it's totally different from anything we've ever done, because we've never done street work. This is our first walkabout street act, but it's something that we've wanted to do for years. And the learning that we have gone through in the last 2 days. We had Alice Whitney from Egg People come and workshop with us, and she was just fantastic. And like, you look at like street performance and you think, oh yeah, I could do that, easy, and it's so difficult, because you think people are just going onto the street and the costume and be like, but it's not. It's like the rules and the levels. There's different levels. She's been brilliant. It's been amazing. It's so much fun, and we're still learning, and that's so incredible. I've loved that, like, we can be this far in and we're still learning like new skills and new methods. Oh, it's incredible. So like this weekend, if people come and see it, if you came to see it, I hope you liked it. But it's also so exciting. I've got no idea what's going to happen this weekend, because it's like it's an improvisation based thing. So we just go out for 45 minutes at a time and we just see what happens, and that is so exciting. So we're like rehearsing like the characters and rehearsing like these rules and these formulas that we have on the street, but at this weekend anything could happen. So it's whatever the 5th and 6th of September will bring. We will, let's find out. Nervous is the word, and excited is also the word.
It sounds incredible. I'm very excited for you. I'm hoping to be able to come down on the Sunday. I'm out of the city on Saturday this week, but I'm hoping to be able to pop down. There are these sort of opportunities now that are slowly starting to open up. We've seen announcements over the last couple of weeks about sort of new festivals that are sort of popping up in outdoor spaces, and obviously we are slowly moving towards potentially having indoor shows again, but our social distancing is making that incredibly difficult. And I don't know about you guys, but I definitely feel like the train driver's sort of gone at the minute, in terms of like, we've been told by the government, yeah, go and do things. Here's a roadmap. We'll get you moving. We'll throw some money at the arts. We'll do this. We'll do that. But then everyone's just sort of disappeared from the map room, and we're sort of being left a little bit to our own devices. I personally feel, I know that up and down the country, I'm seeing a lot of people sort of making up their best sort of efforts to sort of decide, oh yeah, we can do an outdoor event here, but oh no, you can't do an outdoor event here, or oh, we'll license this, but we won't license that. I mean, I'm seeing stories from technicians who are saying they've got events licenses from the council, and the police turn up to try and shut down a rave because they think it's a rave, but it's a licensed event for the council. So all up and down the country, things are still a bit upended, and it's fantastic things are reopening. But what are you sort of feeling about how we move forward a little bit from this kind of transitional phase? Do you think it's getting better? Do you think this is temporary? How does it feel?
The lack of communication, I mean, not even from an arts point of view, but from an entire COVID everywhere point of view, has been the fact that like I don't know what the guidelines are anymore. I don't know. No one knows, like, and it's the difference that you might go into one restaurant and there's certain rules, and you go to another restaurant and it's complete. No one's on the same page, and everyone's just fending for themselves. And I think that is an absolute key. That's key for people turning on each other. And we like, and even like so I think like the fact that there's like no clarity and there's no like consistency, and everyone's just got to fend for themselves and do what they think is what's going to turn us all against each other. I think as well in like theatre world is like seeing what that person's theatre's doing, and then they see, well, why are you doing that? And I think it's just like, it's just a recipe for disaster.
And it feels like for us, we're still doing like what's available, we'll have. It's very much like, oh, there's a fund, let's apply for it. Oh, this is going on, let's apply for it. Is that the best thing for us? Probably not. But it's the only thing that we can do, and that's financial probably, is we're just being like, oh, okay, this is a pocket, maybe we can work something for that.
Because also thinking about like trying to replan the tour that we've lost, that's gone from this year, and trying to like, okay, let's try and replan that for next year. I wouldn't even know where to start.
Who to get in touch with?
I wouldn't know who's open, I wouldn't know who's not. I don't know. There's just no clarity. And also I feel like I don't want to rush back into it. I don't want to try and like force outdoor social distance. Good grief, why? I don't want to force it.
It's like tour booking is difficult in itself anyway.
Tour booking,
every single venue works differently. Some people's programmers are available on the website, some people's you really have to hunt for, some you have to know personally, you have to meet them, network. Others it's like, get in touch, we're open.
I think the issues were already there in terms of like, and that kind of relationship between venues and artists, and like that kind of power struggle. I think the issues are already there, and then I think COVID adds just like, it's a whole other issue, but I think it's rooted in the issues that already existed, in the fact that everybody works, every single venue and every single works completely differently, and no one knows what the one thing is. It's a minefield. It's like
and it's almost like we've kind of like got these structures in place now that we're almost ready. We're trying to hopefully be ready for anything. So we're hoping to like the Holly Blobs, they can go somewhere else. If this is all that's going to be left for a while, they can go and we can get them booked, hopefully, if that's a thing. And that's like a plan in our head as a potential, but that might not be the case. They might go in 2 weeks. Well, it won't be 2 weeks, it's like months, isn't it? They said they're going to discuss it, but it's so confusing.
Yeah.
I just don't know what to do. I don't know. Yeah, I don't know what to do.
No, it's so up in the air. But I do want to ask, because we are sort of asking everyone, if you in an imaginary or maybe who knows what the future holds in the rest of 2020, but in a world where you do get to sit down with with Oliver Dowden, who is our culture secretary, with Rishi Sunak, who is our chancellor, and with Boris Johnson, who is currently our prime minister, if you got to sit down with them and sort of lay in front of them what needs doing, why it needs doing, and how you think it should be done, what would that conversation be? What would you say?
I'd just be like, why do you think it's that little money? I'd just be like, what? I don't know. I'd want to show him a budget. I'd be like, this is a budget for like, I don't know. There's just not enough money, and it's like there's no money invested to the art.
It feels like
I don't get
important. I would really love to know if because it really, really feels like there's no importance there, and this is so stupid. But I was at home, and I never have daytime TV on, but at home it's just on in the background, right? And I'm watching this thing, and it was when the big 1 point something billion pounds had been released, and it was like, oh my gosh, this is amazing, and all these people were going like, is it even worth it? What's this even for? And then all these people on the show were like, I don't even go to the theatre other than Panto. And I was just like, this is all passed down from these people not having the importance. Imagine if Boris Johnson stood there and went, the theatre is so important. Think about the culture. Think about the joy that it brings us. What is the world without culture? What is the world without comedy and, tragedy, all these things? Imagine that. It would just be so amazing, but it just feels like that will never happen. I just feel like it would be so nice. When it was like middle of lockdown, I remember feeling like, is there any point in what I do? Is there any point in anything? And then it's only now that I'm back in the rehearsal room, months later, then I'm going, oh my gosh, this is it. This laughter that I'm literally experiencing is what it's all about. And seeing people smile on the street when we did a rehearsal the other day, it was just like, that's why we did it. I'm like, why are you making us compete for money? Stop making us compete this much to do our jobs. I don't know. It's just there's just no. Why is there not enough money in this? And it's like, it feels like the support was, from what I know, I'm not in this industry, but it felt as like a customer that like the Eat Out to Help Out was amazing, because it was like everybody wins. Everybody wins there in terms of like loads of sales go on every day.
Everyone except
people can get hospitality staff who don't win, who are like getting like absolute burdens. But then it's like, is there a sort of scheme that's similar for us, where it's like you can get cheaper tickets for theatre? But then even then, I don't know if I like that idea, because it devalues. I don't know.
It's such a complicated thing, but I think a lot of the things you're saying there are valid, and it's stuff we're hearing constantly, me and Becky, from people, and it's stuff that we fully agree with you on.
I think it's an arts thing. I even find that now that like even like the fun that we got to make the Holly Blobs, like it's like I'll be talking to some of my friends and I say, oh, we got some money to make this thing, and they are, that's amazing, like how much did you get? And I'm like, oh, we got this, and they are like, how much? And I just feel like going, that's not a lot of money. I think because then you break it down, people don't understand. You hear a sum and you go, oh, but then like when you break things down into like people being paid minimum wage, people, it's like you're like, that's not a lot of money. Like, so it's like, I don't know, I think we just have I think people think people think art is cheap, and art is not cheap. Theatre's not cheap. Making theatre isn't cheap. People don't realise that time is money, and I think it's what people don't see in the arts. People see like come see a show and they think, oh, how much that would have mattered? Oh, well, 200 quid. You spent 200 quid on the props, and you're like, but the time, people don't realise the amount of time and effort that it takes. Even like the time and effort to run a company, like time is literally money. And
yeah, it's strange. Like, so we're always so transparent with everyone in the cast. Before we go into anything, it's so like, this is how much we're getting, this is how much we're going to pay you, this is how much we're going to pay this person that's coming, this is how much we're going to spend on this. And they're all like,
that's amazing, I can't believe I'm getting paid. You would not believe, our team can't believe that they get lunch. We're just like, oh, right. Yeah. So it's just like, but that's not how it should be. And it's lovely.
And it's that attitude of, well, you've done it for 3, for so far, you've done it for free, and it's managed to live, you should be able, and it's like, no, that's not why we did it for free. We did it because we had to.
Still, like, the amount of times that we still get like requests from people who say, oh, like, I once had a message off someone that it was really funny because they're like, we're doing this thing, this event, and we're looking for acts to come and perform at it, and lucky you were the first people I thought of. And it was like an unpaid, wanted to do like a whole show for free. And I was like, but lucky us, because you thought of us. And I was just like,
travel down in a week.
I was like, you don't realise how outrageous that is what you've just asked, because no one else would do, there's no other industry that would do that. So why should we do that for free? Yeah, silly.
Yeah. So much validity in everything that you're saying. I'm just like, I want to contribute more to what we're saying, but I'd just be like totally agreeing with everything you're saying. I just need like a big sign that says like thumbs up, but obviously that doesn't work on a podcast either. So thank you so much, Rachel and Grace, for coming and chatting with us about all of this stuff. It's so interesting to hear about all the stuff you've been making in lockdown, but also that sort of like the emotional journey that's been through all of that. And I'm very, very excited about the Holly Blobs, which is coming to the docks in Liverpool on the 5th and 6th of September. And then maybe, who knows where it may or may not go. Hopefully indeed. Where can people find out more about Ugly Bucket and yourselves? Where can people find you on the internet?
So you can go to our website, which is uglybuckettheatre.com, or you can check out our socials at Ugly Bucket Theatre on Facebook. We're at Ugly Bucket Theatre on Instagram, and we are at Ugly Bucket on Twitter.
Thank you for listening to The Voices Project. This podcast is produced by March for the Arts. The Voices Project is an open platform for anyone who is involved in any way with the arts to share their thoughts, feelings and experiences of art in the current crisis. If you would like to participate and share your voice, you can find out how to do that by visiting our website, www.marchforthearts.com. If you have enjoyed this podcast, please take a moment to give us a review, subscribe or share. You can find out more about what we're doing on our social media.